what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
This podcast is sponsored by Jackson Creative, a custom communication agency located in downtown Hickory, specializing in online content creation. To learn more, visit thejacksoncreative.com. Jackson Creative, we tell your story. This is The Writer's Voice, a podcast collaboration between themesh.tv and Lenore Ryan University, a spotlight on writing talent in Western North Carolina.
Hello and welcome to this unique episode of The Writer's Voice here on The Mesh. I am joined today by Garrick Lane. He is going to give us some insight to his writing career, both the ups and the downs. Garrick is a North Carolina native and is well-versed in writing for film and television. Welcome, Garrick. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Well, as you know, we are typically connected on this show to Lenore Ryan University here in Western North Carolina and the writer department. They are, we've got some great talent coming out of that school and here out of the Catawba County and North Carolina area. But today we wanted to bring in what I have heard on some other podcasts and other, an expert on experts type thing, right? Ooh. So this is, no pressure. No pressure.
No experts either.
But,
and more downs than ups. But.
Well, this is a chance, I think, for even the students that have been on our show and been spotlighted, as well as some of the alumni and local writers, to actually hear from someone who's been in the business a little bit longer and had some experience, as you said, ups and downs. And let this be a resource for them. But really, I just want to dive in because you've got a lot of stuff that's happened over your life. And I think people don't maybe realize that we have this type of person here in Hickory, North Carolina. So just a quick background. You're a North Carolina native.
Correct.
Grew up here, but you went away, as most of us do.
Yes.
We go away and then we find our way back.
We find our way back.
That's right. So give me a quick overview of where you went and why you came back.
Well, I went to California out of high school, and I was there for 10 years. Went to UCLA and, did lots of internships at studios. You go in for 6 weeks for free and you'd do all this work, and you'd have this dream that they were going to keep you on. And after your 6 weeks was up, they'd take you out back and put a slug in you and bring in the next 6 weeks. And it's pretty tough out there. I was there pre 9/11. Mm-hmm. There was a lot more accessibility. But there was a lot of people out there wanting to do things. Believe it or not, I was turned down. Now, hindsight 2020, it's great, but I was turned down a record 22 times from Harvey Weinstein's production company.
Hey.
Applying for that job. That
there's little blessings out
there's
there, right?
There's a silver lining. But see, when I was there, that was, those are the frustrating things. But, I did have some success. I worked on some movies, and I had a couple of screenplays at different different agents' desks and production companies. I got really close.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have kids in Los Angeles. It was especially I left right after 9/11. It was a mess. America was a mess. And I came back and said, all right, I'm about ready for kids. I'm ready to settle down. Like, maybe I'd do something else. So I showed up here, and Dad's like, well, quarantine's done. Everything had just dropped after 9/11. And so I was like, well, I guess maybe I can do what I did in Los Angeles in North Carolina and make a living somehow doing it. And so that's where I am now. Here I am.
So I know you on a level of maybe the technical and production side of things. But talk to me about your writing. How long have you been writing? How long have you, any kind of writing? Was this something you did when you were younger? Did you always have a passion for writing, or did it come about more with the film and television side?
It's funny. It was actually one moment. Everything started in one moment. We left the Crown. My dad and I left the Crown Cinema. after watching Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And Dad's like, be an archaeologist?
Be Indiana Jones?
And no, I want to make movies. Like, I want to do that. And it started, the poor guy was submitted to, back then we had those choose your own adventure books. I don't know if you remember those. Those were great. You go to page like 30 and then you know, if you jumped over the bridge, you would die. So I started writing Indiana Jones choose your own adventures and would force my dad to read them. Hey, read this. Does this work? Does this work? And then I remember 6th grade. I don't know why I did it. And the only reason I even remember this is I found it in a thing, but I found it in a box in the attic at my parents' house. Different colors. I'd used neon colors, but I had written an episodic every week of my friends in 6th grade, and we're skiing. So, and it was, you know, full of drama and boyfriends and girlfriends. It was like a Melrose Place, but it was at Beach Mountain, and it was Grandview Middle School, 6th grade. And I don't know why, but I started reading through those, and I was like, God, did I really waste time doing this? But I had written 23 3-page on notebook paper, episodes of, you know, me and my buddy Brian Lackey going skiing with our girlfriends. I don't know what it was, but it was a start. I mean, that's where it starts.
That's crazy.
Then I went to, my parents shipped me off to boarding school. Probably deserved it.
Clearly
deserved that. But they ended up giving me another chance, let me come back my junior year to Hickory High. Well, I guess in revolt, you know, Rage Against the Machine and all that stuff's coming out, and it's, you know, Revolution and Generation X, and I just decided to revolt. So instead of writing stories, I started creating this underground newspaper with all the drama that went on at Hickory High, and I'd draw on it, and it was handwritten, and I'd pass it out at McDonald's, and it wasn't always good, but there was, you know, handwritten articles. There was stuff in there. In fact, one issue got called. The principals ended up with it, and I was suspended for 10 days for the content of it. Now it's funny because I look back. It was a little rough. 10 days was a little rough. Dr. Massey. That was a little rough because now, you know, somebody will hold a gun in their hand and send a picture on Snap saying they're going to shoot up the school, and they'll get 10 days.
Right.
I wrote a newspaper that had a little bit of something in it that wasn't good.
That they didn't like. So you look back at these things now, whether it's your Choose Your Own Adventure or your ski adventure books, whatever it may be, what do you think of your talent back then? Did you see talent in it? Did you think this is when you were doing this?
I think I just liked doing it.
Yeah.
I don't think it was until I got to Los Angeles that I realized, you know, that I want to do this. Like, it would be great. However, the unfortunate part was I think I was doing all this stuff in school. So instead of, you know, learning my English and learning my grammar, I'm just writing. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I get to college and I'm starting to write scripts, and I thank goodness I had a very patient roommate that would look through it and goes, "Dude, you write like your country. You write like you talk. You can't do that." So, but yeah, I think that it was. I still like to do it, and I don't now. You know, you got kids and you got a business, and my latest script took me 7 years to finish.
Purely because of the other things you had going on, or because of maybe a writer's block?
I think it was both. I think it was, to be quite honest, I think it was laziness. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I started. Let me retort that, actually. It wasn't lazy, but I started writing it, and because of children and, you know, business and everything. I mean, I started, when I got back from Los Angeles, I worked at a furniture company, and I was just doing graphic design. And but when I would not at that job, I was at home writing. And that's all I did. I'm going to write. And I actually made 2 short films in that small year that I was working at that, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do films. Well, after the second film, I used that film to raise money to start my business. So now I'm shooting corporate video, and we're doing music videos, and I'm actually doing it. I'm doing corporate stuff, and now suddenly I don't have time to do. I have the drive, but I don't have the time, and so I finally was like, well, I'm going to do this, and I would write it, and then life would get in the way. Shoots, all sorts of stuff would happen, kids getting born, and then I guess the story would change as my life would change, because the story was about he's down on his luck, and his son prays for him to turn it around and come get the kids. Like, he's down, he loses his house, loses his job and everything. And so when I started writing it, I was fresh out of a marriage, and I was kind of where this guy was. So as I'm writing it, my life is changing because I get remarried, and things just. And I think it took maybe 2 years for the real story to form, and then where I wasn't disciplined enough to sit and say, I'm going to devote 3 hours, no matter what. Devote 3 hours to the script. And if I would have done that, sure, it would have been done earlier, but I don't know if it would have been the same. I've passed it out to 10 people, and they're like, it's the best thing you've done. Oh, it only took me 7 years. It should be the best thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Should be. It took 7 years to do. But it is done, and I think the times, looking back, I'm getting off subject, but every time that I did finally sit down to work on it, I loved it. It's like therapy. Like, if you like to write, you got to do it. You got to find time to do it.
Yeah.
You just have to find time to do it.
Well, you actually touched on my next question just a little bit already, but there's obviously all forms of writing. There's your journalism that you were doing in high school, right?
Yep.
That was maybe not everybody's cup of tea, but where do you drive your creativity and inspiration from? Do you feel like real life experiences make the best writing tools, or do you think somebody's imagination does?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I think, as far as, I've always said that real life is impossible to write. Like, it just...
Sure.
It really is. It's impossible. I'm writing a short film right now. We'll just use that as an example. And it's going to be a complete spoiler, because I'm going to have to tell you the end of the movie to tell you how hard it is to write it. But it's basically, we meet this guy at the first scene. You meet this guy, and he's working at a plant, and he walks home from the plant. And you get very quickly, he goes into this rundown house, and you get very quickly that something's going down with this guy. Like, he's very quiet. He doesn't have a phone. And he doesn't drive. And so as this 20-minute film goes on, you kind of grasp little things. You have some flashbacks. Well, come to find out, and you don't learn until like the last 5 minutes before he accepts the fact that he's finally, basically he's on his way to, you find out that on the way to a father-daughter dance, he's taking a selfie of his daughter and him in the car on the way, and he goes through a stoplight, and and the daughter is killed, and his marriage is gone, and everything's changed for him in that split moment. That is so hard to write, like, because it's real. Mm-hmm. It's not like the Avengers where you can.
Right.
Hulk falls into a big skyscraper. Nobody dies, and nobody questions it because it doesn't matter.
Right.
Deep Impact, the meteor hits the tower, and you have to explain all these people that died. Like, it's completely different. So whereas fantasy, you gotta know the history and the lore and the mythology of, like, Joseph Campbell and stuff like that. But you can bend the rules, whereas real life, you can't bend the rules. It has to be real.
Selfies, running stoplights.
Yeah, like
losing children. That cuts to the core. That's the deal.
Absolutely. And then and then being able to, you can't. He has to not be. He doesn't use a phone, and he won't use a car. So therefore he's got a job close to his house, and he walks there back and forth, and he rejects everything. He rejects everybody. How do you write when the girl comes into his life that kind of gets him over the hump? Like, how do you have to physically take that journey with that guy, whereas Captain America can just show up on some crazy skyscraper, or some big,
and everybody's saved, and it's done. That's great.
Right.
Yeah,
so it's completely different. It's hard. Writing real life is completely impossible.
Do you ever have the urge to not write real life stuff? Seems like all the things you've told me about that you write are.
Yes,
you went on ski trips to Beach Mountain, which we all experienced. You wrote about your high school stuff, and now, you've written about this, a tragedy with a real life stuff. But what about the fantasy stuff? Do you like that?
Amazingly enough, my two closest, I guess, door openers of scripts were fantasy. My first one was, it's like a very pumped up Waterworld. I know Waterworld tanked. It's probably not a good example, but it was a world.
But in the real scheme of things, did Waterworld tank? Or, when we're talking about scripts not being even past the desk, right? You would have taken Waterworld, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, it's just this fantasy world of jungles and lots of oceans. It's kind of like a pirate thing, but there's some magic, and it was great. Like it was four of us working on it, and it was good. It was solid, and it actually got through and went to like 4 or 5 desks, and got a rewrite and went back to the desk. Now, this was, mind you, 1999. Lord of the Rings, there wasn't anything going on. Willow had tanked, and there was not anything going on. So the final rejection on that script was, it's good, we just don't have a market for it. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's fair enough. They're not doing big fantasy movies right now. Titanic had just come out. They're not doing, they're just not doing that. And then, of course, Lord of the Rings comes, and then Game of Thrones, and you look back and you go,
so close.
Which is funny, because all 4 of those guys that helped me do that about 2 years ago messaged me and said, we need to break that script up and try to sell it to, we need to rework it and try to sell it to Hulu or Netflix or somewhere, because, right now Prime is working on their Lord of the Rings episodes, or their whole it's a good time to work on that again. And then the other one, the one that got in at Hulu, where we did 3 rewrites before they rejected me, it was a script about a really terrible human being who dies and goes to hell, and the devil says, I don't want you. You're going to get one more chance. And so he goes back into purgatory, goes back into the waiting. They send him up to heaven, and heaven's like, we don't want you either. You're awful. You're an awful human being. You're going to get one more chance. We're going to let you go back, because we don't want you. We don't want you this way. You need to get it fixed. And it's comedy, but it was loads of fantasy, because there's just so maybe that's the way in. If anybody wants to write a script, know your market, and that's the way to do it.
Well, so spinning off that a little bit, think about speaking to maybe the other writers that have been on these episodes of The Writer's Voice. What do you tell them on how to get this started? Because clearly it doesn't matter your genre that you're writing for, or really the topic. The matter is you're going to find somewhere that you need to be. What do you suggest? Like, what's just the starting point?
The starting point is the same story arc. Every story has a Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. It has a story arc. It's the same. Mm-hmm. Now, how you spin that same arc in an original way is the only way that you can do it. And if it's amazing, because I hear so much that Netflix, all this programming, this online programming is so much better than TV. Well, number one, they don't have any rules. And 2, they were the ones that went and grabbed all that stuff that was real unique, that maybe would have been too risky to shoot in film on 35 millimeter, and said, well, let's just try this. And and if you notice, it's all original. It's the same story, but it's all completely original. And I think it used to be, when I was 20, and now I'm halfway to the grave, so I'm starting to, I'm starting to check. I'm really starting to check the time. Like, okay, what do I need? What is going? But as much as you like writing, if you really want to be successful, or if you want to sell something, or you really want to make a film, or you really want to get published, do the research first and find out what people are reading. And go. I know it stinks because you're supposed to just write what you love, but if people are wanting horror films with a guy running around with a hockey mask on, that's what studios and Reader's Digest and all these people are buying, then find that kind of story and work it your way and do it that way. Get in. Everything needs marketing now. So you can't just write some film about a hot air balloon in a house with two old people and expect it to do any good. You gotta know that the studio wants something like that, and then you write it that way. If that makes any sense. It
does. No, it does. It's I actually, this is side note, I saw something the other day, actually, Gina Davis.
Yes.
Has this she has a research group that she works with in her film company that works with Google. Google has developed an app for them that they are able to record everything within a film or a television show to find out how much time women are represented, because that's what Gina Davis's platform is, right? Is women
Agreed.
In the industry.
Absolutely.
And so they can monitor how many lines a woman has, how many minutes she gets to speak versus how many the men do, plus take their salary ratio and blah, blah, blah. And it's this whole algorithm of stuff, right? But
it's crazy.
It is. And it's just by, they push this app to the film and they watch it one time and the numbers are everywhere, right?
Data is all. Yep.
But she was explaining how 2012, they saw from 2011 to 2012, they saw this huge spike in women sporting stuff. And everybody was like, what is going on? Like, why are, and they're tying it all back and stuff. And they find out, okay, Brave came out then, and so did Hunger Games. Yep. What sport do both those, a cartoon and, cartoon, and Hunger Games, which appeals to many ages, right?
Right.
Bow and arrow classes and archery becomes a huge thing, and it's women empowerment, right? So she said after that, all these archery groups are forming and clubs are coming up and everything. And that's the same thing you're talking about, right? Look at what's happening there. And if you can write to that, then you're probably going to be in a much better spot. Not saying you have to, but probably doesn't hurt you.
Right? You're absolutely right. And to go back to my my script, the Fateful Season. When I started years ago, I'd always said, and this faith-based films were not really doing anything back then. They're easier to make, which is why I started writing it that way. It's like, well, it's easier to make than a horror movie. You can't. Slasher movies, nobody's going to give you money.
I was about to say because of budget?
Yeah, okay. Budget, and people just, they're not going to give you money for that.
Sure.
Faith-based films that can be sold to Walmart, sold on DVD straight to Walmart are much easier to find funding for. Well, what's great is throughout that, again, as that journey took 7 years, it's almost perfect because even just 7 years ago, I said, well, I'm going to have an interracial. It's going to be the first faith-based film with an interracial relationship. The lead's going to be white. His ex-wife's going to be white, but he's going to find this beautiful African-American woman that sings at the church that's going to turn him around. And it's funny because a lot of people were like, Garrick, man, you're in the South. You're going to be selling to, churches and people like this. Do you think that that's a good idea? And I said, well, I think it's a great idea because it's change. It's the new. That's another new market. Like that's. Right. I'm gonna be honest. Like that's dollars. Like it's huge dollars now.
Right.
So you do that. You add that, and you add good gospel music, and you add baseball. I mean, it's a moneymaker.
Sounds amazing.
You know what I'm
right?
saying?
Yeah.
Right. So you got to know that's what you're selling. It's not just a story anymore. You got to sell the social media. You got to market it. So, you got to, what's going on, like you say, to people right now. Apparently, people are writing Me Too, the Me Too movement.
Gotcha,
a lot of revenge movies with women who've been, something that's happened with them. That's what's getting picked up. Even if the films aren't getting made, that's what people are buying and optioning these scripts that are about, horrible men who got away, for 20 years. Speaking of Harvey Weinstein, who got away with, the old way of life. So that's, like I say, sometimes if you like to write, forecast what people are buying, or if you like to write just because you like to write, do whatever. But if you want to find a way in, like if you really want to sell that script, or you want to win that contest, find what find what they're liking, who's reading it, and what they like and what they're taking, and cater your story to that.
Because I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a writer, but if you are wanting to just get that script picked up, if you're wanting that poem to be published, if you're wanting this, and you maybe adjust your style a little bit to cater to whatever is going on at that point, the thought process to me would be get yourself in the door somewhere. Yeah. And then as soon as people start liking your stuff, you get to write whatever you want.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Is that kind of your thought process down the road?
If I can get, The Fateful Season, I've always directed my own movies. Of course, I've only done 4, so I don't know any better. But with this one, I was like, look, I don't even mind if somebody takes it and they read it and they go, we want to do it, but we're going to have this guy over here direct it. And hey, you can be on set, you can watch, and you can help produce and do all this stuff. I'm going to be like, fine. Because once we do it, if it's successful, I can give them that slasher movie. So I've got this other slasher movie that I've been holding on to for 20 years that I'd like to do. Can I do this now? And suddenly that door is open. Larry Cohn, he's from the 70s and 80s. He used to make B movies. He made a ton of money making crap Roger Corman kind of movies. But he had but everybody liked his writing, and he would pump out a script every 2 years. So he had this big shelf of scripts, and he just stopped working. So he just decided, I had done 45 movies or whatever. It's like, all right, I'm going to just chill. So for 20 years, he didn't do anything. But every now and then when he needed money, he'd call his agent and pull one script out of that desk and say, I need you to sell this. I'm running out of money.
Well,
and they would sell it. He'd make $100,000 or whatever it was, and then he would enjoy that. He would just sit, and then when it was time to get more money, but once you're in the door, you can sell anything you want.
You can do that, right?
Aaron Sorkin could write. I don't know if anybody knows Aaron Sorkin. I did his master class. He's my David Mamet and him are like my favorite writers, but he could probably write a feature-length film about grass growing, and somebody would option the script.
Because of the name attached to it, too, right?
Yeah, there's going to be some time lapses of grass growing. It's going to be great. There's going to be a caterpillar come along. It's pretty good. It's only 90 pages. It's good. Somebody's going to cut him a check for that. Yeah. Because of who he is.
Well, so let's say that the people listening out there are ready to go. They're ready to do something. They're ready to take the next step. Again, whether it's publishing in a book, whether it's getting a film made, whether it's a script, whatever. How do you prepare for rejection, and how do you come back from it?
Oh, you don't take it personal.
Yeah.
But when you put that script, that manuscript in your hand, and you go, "This is great," the chances are it's not. I have given. The last 3 things, I would say the last 3 things that I've been trying to do with the Hulu pitch and the last 2 scripts I've written, I'm giving it to 20 people. And I'm letting them, and I'm like, rip it apart or don't rip it apart. But be prepared. You just have to have thick skin, and you just have to know that That's just the only way it's going to get better is to get rejected. The only way you get better is by failing. Like, okay, well, you're rejecting this. With Hulu, my little death, my Meet Joe Black kind of teen angst pilot. He finally said it's not edgy enough. Like, it needs to be more edgy. We need more sex and more cussing and more comedy. And I'm like, well, I don't know how to do comedy, so I guess we're just done here. You know what I mean? And it was a bummer, but it's like
sex and cussing I got, but comedy no.
I could do all that stuff, but it's just like anything else. The more you lose, the more you learn.
Yeah.
And all I can say is you'll get rejected, but if you get rejected, you are 92% better than all the other people that never finished. Mm-hmm. And that's the bottom line. I'm in the film business, and everybody I talk to, having a drink or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, dude, you make movies? Hey, I got this movie idea." "Oh yeah, you got it written down?" "Well, no, it's here." "Okay, well, you got some scenes, got some index cards with some of the scenes on it. Have you started? You got a pitch letter, something?" "Nah, man, but hey, we should get together, man. You could help me get it." No, I'm good." You got to finish it. Mm-hmm. You got to sit down and find time and finish it. If you got 56 pages of a script and you think it's horrible, finish it anyway, because it's really the only way you'll ever get a chance to get rejected is to be able to physically take that script and go, "Harvey, you're looking for a comeback. Hey, I've got this great script here, and it doesn't involve anything bad. It's good. It can redeem you. Here, see, it's here.
Wow,
Pages."
it really must be good.
Yes,
it must be real good at that point.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So how do you prepare to pitch? What are some tips you could give about pitching yourself and or your project?
You need to be able to explain this movie. You need to wow everybody with 2 sentences. And that's it. And then sometimes they'll ask you give me 2 movies. So, okay, well, The Fateful Season is The Apostle meets For the Love of Money. No, I'm sorry, For the Love of the Game with Kevin Costner meets The Apostle with Robert Duvall. How about that? Yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like you get, and they'll hit you like so. You need to have the research, and you really need to be. And it really, that's funny because the pitch and the query letter that would come after that, the pitch is the originality, and if that pitch, if you can't, I guess what am I trying to say? If you can't explain your movie in 2 to 3 sentences, then you need to go back to the drawing board and rework it. Because it should come very easy to you. Three sentences to be able to explain your story and to wow somebody and go, "Ooh, that sounds pretty good." That's what Hulu and Netflix. If you can get in the door and get through the first door where they'll actually listen to what you have to say, you'll send them an email and it'll be 3 sentences with an attached query letter. From there, they'll say, "We like this. Do you have a written script?" I would have a written script. I wouldn't say, "Well, I can write it now," because they're going to throw it. That's going to be like, So have the written. Hey, we like this. The written script. Then that'll go to Netflix, Hulu. The readers will read it. Then they'll go back to the guys and say, "Well, we kind of like this, but we don't like this part." So then they'll come back to you and say, "Well, we like this, but we want you to take out the baseball. We don't like the baseball part. Make it football." Okay, so then you'll do a couple of rewrites, but you're in. And then they might turn you down, and you spent 6 months on a script and you haven't made any dollars. However, if you can get to that point, they'll listen again, because you're already through that door. Then you can send and go, "Hey, Brent, I got this new one. You want to check it out?" Yeah, and you're always in that list. And sooner or later, knock on wood, they'll be like, "We really like this." So now what they'll do is they'll give you a letter of intent saying, "Hey, we'll pay for 7 episodes of this if you can get it made." And then you take that letter of intent to people that have money, and you go, "You want to make some money? We're going to make this."
Yeah, I mean, it's a true Shark Tank.
Yeah, it's really
it really is a Shark Tank at that point.
It really is,
right?
and that letter's all you have. And if you can't find backers, or, hedge fund guys and people that give you money with that piece of paper, and then you're in trouble. But I mean, that's pretty much how it works. And sometimes they'll shoot. They'll give you the money to shoot the pilot, and then if they like the pilot, they'll just go ahead and order it. Yeah. There's all sorts of different ways, but the way in is to be able to wow them with 3 sentences. So that means that script better be good, and you better be able to, it better be good, and you better be able to wow them with those 3 sentences. And if you can do that, you can get the door, and then you can just keep churning it until somebody goes, fine. Oh my gosh, we'll make one.
Fine, quit calling me.
Yeah. That's what I should be doing. People get mad at me because they're like, you're in the door. And I'm like, yeah, but I have 5 kids. And I'm trying to make my film, and I'm trying to keep the lights on. And I know it's no excuse, but I'm not 21 anymore. I can't move in with my parents and sit in front of the typewriter and just go.
Yeah.
I sent, the first meeting I had with Hulu, I sent them a spreadsheet of ideas. There was 23 pitches on this thing. I still have it. I haven't seen any of them come out, but that's if they were finally like, oh my gosh, we like this one. I'm like, sweet, you like this one. 23. I had 23 different pitches on this thing. This was right when Hulu was coming out. This was right. Now it's different, of course, but right when they were coming out, they're like, content.
Yeah.
Give it to me. Yep, I had 23, and they were like, well, we like this one. I'm like, but you don't like this one and this one? Like, these are already written. Like,
yeah, right. But let me talk to you about this one.
Yeah, come on. Why the comedy? Why did you get the comedy
Look
one?
at number 16. Yes.
Yeah. You don't like this one? That one would be easy to write. Okay, never mind.
It's a shame.
But that's it. It comes down to you can't get rejected unless you do it.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
To get rejected over and over and over again.
Check.
Check. I have. I sent my film through the focus group, and we finally came down. We're fighting with the ending. Again, a marketing situation where we don't know if he needs to win, if the audience wants him to win, or if they want him to lose, because it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So, it's one of those things. We're going to rewrite the ending, and I'm going to start going door to door, literally. Rejecting to faith-based film productions and say, hey, I had this movie. You need to look at this movie. And build some, social media marketing. Yeah. And then while that's happening, I'm going to finish my little short film and shoot it around here just to case, because I haven't shot one in a while, so I need to. I think coincide while we're looking for money for this, or we're trying to get this one produced, me getting back in the saddle and doing something like that to be able to compliment it and say, see, I can, here's this. This is dramatic as it can be. And it's got a huge theme. I mean, Dad, he's taking a selfie.
Yeah,
he's taking a selfie. Right. He kills his only daughter, and his life is over.
Yeah.
How do you get back in the saddle with that? So I'm working on that, and going to try to sell this thing and see what happens.
Wow.
Working on some other stuff too.
See, I knew that was going to be coming up. I figure, you every time I talk to you, I feel like you're on the go, doing something different, going from here. It's all different stuff, but within the same industry. You're right. It's still that video, multimedia, if you will, even. You have your own podcast.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. You talked about B movies a little earlier. That's really what your podcast is about, right?
Yeah, well, we do movies. It's more Lee, the guy I do it with. It's more his podcast because he's the historian. But it's basically a podcast about the films that nobody's ever heard of, but you must see. It's like the good stuff. The people don't. When you go on Netflix, you'll scrub by that Brawl on Cell Block 99 with Vince Vaughn on it, and you'll pass by Phone Booth, and these little movies you just skip those to go watch Avengers for the 16th time. So my podcast is about, hey, you guys should go back. You should try that movie. It's pretty good. That's really all it is, and it keeps me inspired.
And it's called
Tales from the Video Store.
And where can people find it?
at videostoretales.com.
Excellent. So, moving forward, any last bits of advice for those budding writers, struggling writers, or just anyone that thinks they maybe have a talent and maybe have never told anybody?
Read lots of stuff. If you like, there's a book I live by. I actually have it here because I wanted to at some point in time make sure that I said it. But there's a book out there, Joseph Campbell. It's old as Methuselah, but it's Joseph Campbell, and it's the hero with 1,000 voices, and it's the mythology of the character arc, and it explains. When you sit down to have a story, there's a main character, and this explains in a really great way in a mythology how the character should arc, and how you go from broke, not seeing your kids to almost pitching the perfect game in the championship of minor league baseball. So you need to read, and this is going to sound funny. But I spark a lot of creativity doing stuff outside the box. I've started playing D&D more. I used to play D&D, but it's great because it comes with good
Well, explain that, because I don't understand that.
What?
No.
You don't understand Dungeons and Dragons?
Not a bit.
Okay, so basically, Dungeons and Dragons, it's all fantasy, but you come in and you're a character, and there's a game, and there's a DM there, and he has a map, and you can play an elf, or you can play a warlock, and you can play different characters, and you kind of act. It's kind of improv, and you have to create this world, and the DM will explain, you're going through this hallway, and this monster comes out. I can't explain it. Hey, my wife thinks it's the dumbest thing ever, but it's like it really has. About 2 years ago, I was really I was just getting dry, and I'm like, my life is passing before me, and I'm not writing, and I'm not being creative. I'm shooting another Walmart commercial. You know what I mean? I'm just like, oh, am I really shooting another arm leg in a furniture plant again?
Right.
Like, wow, cool. And I decided a buddy of mine was playing, and he's like, you should come play. And I'm like, oh man, I haven't played that since college. And I played, and I was hooked. But it also spawned. It brought me back in, like like it brought the creative juices back, and it really did, and it's helped it ever since. Like it really does. However, now it's, you devote 2 or 3 hours a week to Dungeons and Dragons instead of writing. So and then you got podcasts at another hour, and I'm like, dude, if I took all that stuff away, I could write more. So there you go. You just have to pick your battles, I guess.
What the little secret tips you're giving us,
Secret tips.
Go play Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm telling you, you should just come one time and just try it. My wife, she's there's some people that are right-brained and left-brained, and they don't get it. But we're playing on Sundays, and 4 people of the 7 had never played before.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I'm the DM, so I'm like the storyteller. Imagine that. And they left after the first session. They left, and they started texting all their friends, and they're like, "This is the coolest thing ever." So you either get it or you don't.
That's crazy.
But it is. It's just a way, It's
everybody draws their inspiration from something.
Yes, but I guess getting back to them, I would just I guess the most important thing I would say is to finish.
Yeah.
Get it done. And if you have to force your dad to read it over and over, make your roommate read it, do it. Mm-hmm. Do it. Spend time on it. Don't rush through it. I had a buddy who would write scripts, and he would give me a new script, and it was 3 weeks. He said, I wrote this in 3 weeks. And I'm like, well, I bet it's gonna read like you wrote it in 3 weeks. Like, take your time, devote a certain amount of time a week to doing it. Really, write 20 pages and get a good friend to read it and go, well, did that grab you? Is that good? Just do it. But the main thing is, you can have that script, you can have that story in your head for 20 years. Mm-hmm. You can't do anything with it when it's in your head. Not anymore. You gotta have it in front of somebody. So finish.
Very cool. Well, I really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you.
coming by and sharing some insight, especially for the audience that this show has generally appealed to. You know, people that enjoy good writing and enjoy writing themselves. Some people that do it for themselves, some people that are looking to go further with it. And obviously, as you told me before this episode, you said, I'm good at getting rejected and I understand how this works.
Yeah.
Been there, done that. I'm happy to share it with everybody, you know, and it's not to be doom and gloom about it, but it's a part of the process.
Absolutely.
And so I really appreciate you sharing
No
that
problem.
and being very candid about it.
Oh, absolutely. If
Yeah.
you finished it, you can get rejected. And then you just have
And
to.
you too could be like Garrick Lane.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. And hey, if you got in the door, if they let you
Yes.
through the interface of the computer and you got in the door to get rejected, you're doing better than more than half the other writers out there that aren't doing anything. So,
Small victories,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Got to take it in strides.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, we really appreciate you joining us here on The Writer's Voice
Thank
today.
you.
And to everyone out there listening, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you next time only on The Mesh.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.